Shalom Aleichem, my friends. The Parashat that we are going to read this coming Shabbat is the Parashat Ele Toldot Yitzhak ben Avraham. Avraham holid et Yitzhak. These are the descendants of Avraham. Avraham gave birth to Yitzhak. We shall talk about it. But first I would like to dedicate this coming lecture to the memory of my dear friend Yosef Salama, the son of Yitzhak and Diakot, who passed away last week. An exceptional individual, a man who has done so much with his great natural honesty and sincerity. He was once the treasurer of the Moroccan Jewish organization, where I served as the rabbi. He was also the president at a certain time. And then, over 5 years ago, or maybe 6 years, he was in his deathbed. A bed from which he didn't come down for all these years. And I must say that God definitely welcomed him in heaven, in paradise. Why? Because this man has changed his life. Him and his wife Marcel, Zichrona Livracha, they became religious people, even though their background was not religious. But at a certain time when their daughter Rachel, when she wedded a religious man, her parents became religious. They became Shomrei Shabbat. Very good Shomrei Shabbat. I remember he used to keep Shabbat up to the point, without any hesitation. With his natural simplicity and honesty, he fulfilled all the mitzvot that he understood, that he knew. He prayed every day, 3 times a day. When he was capable of standing up, he had his own little chamber in which he prayed to God. And that's why, when we received the news that he finally gave his soul to his Maker, then we felt sadness, but at the same time we knew that this man is considered a tzaddik, and a tzaddik who deserves to go to the land of God, the world of Hashem, Gan Eden Elyon, the upper paradise. May Hashem bless his soul. And now let's go back to our derasha. So the Torah says, Ve'ele Toldot Yitzhak ben Avraham. These are the children of Avraham. And then there is an interruption. Avraham holid et Yitzhak. Avraham gave birth to Yitzhak. Apparently, the second phrase is unnecessary. If you tell me that Ve'ele Toldot Yitzhak, these are, the children of Yitzhak, the son of Avraham, it means that Avraham gave birth to Yitzhak. So why do you have to be so redundant and to reiterate that Avraham gave birth to Yitzhak? For this, there's an answer that is quite known. When Sarah, the wife of Avraham, our mother Sarah, when she became pregnant at the age of 90, that was a time after it was known. There was a rumor that she spent a night taken by the king Avimelech, and who did not touch her at all. Why? Because the angel of God appeared to him and he stopped him from doing so. Nevertheless, the problem is that outside, the world thinks Sarah is in the house of Avimelech. All right, but then years passed, and now they realize that Sarah is pregnant. Pregnant? That means she became pregnant. Probably she was impregnated by King Avimelech. That was a terrible thing to think about Abraham. That means Yitzhak is not a good boy, he's a bastard. Mamzer. how do we solve this problem? God took care of that problem. You know what he did? What he did? When Yitzchak was born, as a baby, people looked at him and they saw the face of Abraham, his father. He looked exactly like his father. And then anyone who had any other suspicions came to the reality that obviously the father is Abraham. That Sarah is the mother, there's no question, because she became pregnant. And even though people could have thought that maybe she adopted a child from the outside, but people, when they came for the feast that was organized by Avraham after 2 years since Yitzchak was born, she was able to give her own milk to the people who came to see her. And that was definitely a miracle, but recognized by everyone. And there was no more suspicion that it's possible that the pregnancy came from Avimelech. Only Avraham is the father of Yitzchak and no one else, as Sarah is the mother of Yitzchak. There is only one question that I would like to discuss. We know that Avraham is a great man. In every sense of the word, nobody can equal the greatness of Avraham in his traits of character, in his greatness, in wisdom, everything. So the fact that Yitzchak, a great son, was born to him is not really something special. Everyone will understand that a son from this kind of father will have to be great, right? But the problem is that Ishmael also came from Avraham, from a different woman, from Hagar, the concubine. But at the same time, he is the son of Avraham. How is it possible that Ishmael, who is known to have been a bad one, at least for the Jewish people, we know that, right? And as our sages said, that Ishmael was a bad boy. As the Torah tells us, when Sarah saw that he was behaving not normally with Yitzchak, out of fear that he might spoil the character of Yitzchak, Sarah came and gave an order to Avraham, her husband, and she told him, get rid of this woman and her son, even though he is the son of Avraham. In the beginning, Avraham, of course, was displeased. I mean, Ishmael is still his son. But then the angel of God said to him, whatever Sarah tells you, listen to her. Why? Because your real descendancy is Yitzchak. And the rest is the story of last week in Parashat Chaye Sarah. So now we come back to the question, how is it possible that Ishmael comes from Avraham? Avraham is old tzaddik. Same thing also, the same question goes for Yitzchak. I mean, Yitzchak gave birth to Yaakov. Yaakov is a marvelous boy, a real righteous man, a great soul. Perhaps even greater than his father Yitzchak and his grandfather Avraham. Our sages said that Yaakov was Bechir Sheba'avot. He was the choicest of all our forefathers. But still, there's nothing special about it. I mean, he is the son of Yitzchak. What do you expect? He is the grandson of Avraham. But the problem is that together with Yaakov, from the same womb, who came out? Esav. And Esav, in our tradition, is known as Esav Rasha, the wicked Esav. So how is it possible that Esav comes from the seed of Yitzchak and Rivka? We can try to understand this in a simple way. I mean, let's go back again to Ishmael and Yitzchak, who came out from Avraham and Sarah. Let's not forget that Avraham himself, even though he was an exception of all the rules, of all humanity, nevertheless, his parents, his family, they were all idol worshippers. His father, Terach, was an idol worshipper number one. So somehow, there is a certain damage, spiritual damage, that is projected into the seed of the descendancy. It is known. That's why, even though we had Esav, but you have to have also Ishmael. He comes, like the Kabbalah says, the Kabbalists say that Ishmael came from the Kelipot, that were the neighbor of Yitzchak. The Kelipot are the forces, the evilish forces, that are very destructive spiritually as well as physically, but at the same time they come in a certain form. Ishmael was the neighbor of Yitzchak, from the same womb, from the same father. Rivka and Yaakov, Rivka was the mother of Yaakov, but Yaakov was with Esav in the same womb of Rivka. How is it possible? That Yaakov is perfect, that I understand, why not? But we have Esav. Esav is the wicked. How is it possible that he comes from the great Yitzchak and Rivka, the great righteous woman? No woman equaled the righteousness of Rivka. But that also can be explained. The fact that Yaakov came, that's the purity of Yitzchak. The fact that Esav came, he came because Rivka, although she was very pure, but she came from a family who were the idol worshippers. And who knows, what can I say? In a way, there is some kind of damage. Perhaps the damage is that Esav was to be born together with Yaakov. The Kabbalists say that Esav is the Kelipot surrounding Yaakov, as Ishmael is the Kelipot surrounding Yitzchak. We understand the Jewish people did suffer from Ishmael throughout all the generations. Yes. Maybe not as much as the Jewish people suffered from the other nations who came from Esav, Edom, from Rome and on till today, anti-Semitism. We understand that both of them were enemies, but the real enemy was Ishmael, because that's a natural enemy. But Esav is rather the anti-Semite. Some people put it this way in their books. But Hashem did it in such a way that, of course, He did separate between them, the Kelipot and the pure baby, from the Kelipot that is the negative side. And the Kadosh Baruch Hu needed that in order to purify that which is inside also. To purify Yaakov, you need a Esav. To purify Yitzchak, you need a Ishmael. Hashem knows what He does. Who are we to even try to understand the ways of HaKadosh Baruch Hu? But we have to trust that whatever He does definitely for the best of the world as well, and especially for the best of the Jewish people, His chosen nation. Now there is much more to say, and we are not going to go into the philosophical that is in that situation, that how the genes are going from one father to the son. But not everything goes to the son, to the children. There are two kinds of mitzvot and averot, good things and bad things. There are good things that have to do with the soul, not with the body, such as believing in God. That's good, right? So that is not necessarily, does not go into the system of the children. Let's say, for example, if the father is not a believer in God, that does not mean that the children will also be the kind of people who will not believe in God. We have seen it. We have seen that many parents were not religious at all, and yet the children came out they became religious. I mean, they learned, and they did their best, and they became religious. I have my own stories on that. On the other hand, we know also of the other side. We know that there were people, very, very religious people, from whom came out children who lost their religion. They did not observe anymore. There are so many people like this. So what is it that causes that? According to the Ran, Rabbeinu Nissim in his drashot, also brought by the Avraham, also brought by the Keli Yakar and others, and with differences somehow, also by the Kuzari of Rabbi Yehuda Levi, also by the Rambam in Moreh Nevuchim, also by the Ramban in Emunah and Bitachon, his book Emunah and Bitachon. But the thing itself is that whatever passes to the children is rather, I'm not talking now about the good things. Let's talk about the bad traits of character. The bad traits of character, let's say for example hatred, or anger, or jealousy, which is a sickness that is terrible. Jealousy, or haughtiness, or vanity, or many things that have to do with bad things that cause a damage to the soul as well as to the body. That is it has the possibility to be transmitted to the children. Unlike the other kind of mitzvot and averot which have to do with believing. That's the reason why Rivka, for example, even though she came from a house of idol worshippers, she was a beautiful woman with her own mind. She did not believe in the ways of her family. How do we know that? Well, let's go back to the story when Eliezer went to fetch a woman for his master, for the son of his master Yitzchak. When he came and he saw Rivka, he understood that she is the one designated for Yitzchak. So he went to talk to her parents. The parents wanted to hold him somehow. Can we wait a few months maybe? He said to them, please, don't make me wait. Now that God has made my way successful, Vashem itzliach darki, please let me go with her without waiting. So they said, okay, let's just at least ask her. Let us call the girl and ask her. Would you want to go to become the wife of Yitzchak? Would you want to go with this man? Immediately what was her answer? Elech, vatomer, elech. One word. I shall go. Wait a minute. Wait for the authorization of your parents. What about the respect of your parents? What about their feelings? You should have feelings for them. No. She decided immediately. I don't belong to this family. I belong with the family of Yitzchak. Yes, she was ready to go and become the wife of Yitzchak. Why? She did not believe in the ways of her parents. Her father was Betuel, an idol worshipper. Her brother was Lavan, the known wicked person. But Tomer Elech, that testifies to the tremendous character and the purity of character of Rivka. So you see that matters of belief are not transmitted. What can be transmitted is the bad traits of character, such as the ones that I have mentioned before. And that, by the way, teaches us that one has to be very careful to do the best he can to remedy to his own traits of character. Because you have to know, if you are eaten with jealousy and you don't do anything about it, you know that your children are going to be, at least some of them will be also people with jealousy. If you are easy, for example, to get angry, you have to do something about it. Of course, you should ask me the question, what should he do? What should I do? That's his nature. Yes, but there is one thing that is not in his nature. Fight it. If you fight it, it's possible. If not, to change everything, but at least to better the situation, to make it better. That's also a gain. But if you don't try to change yourself, it will inevitably be transmitted to the children or to one of the children. You wouldn't want that. That's why when it comes to bad traits of character, one who has to use not only his mind, but his efforts to try to overcome them. When it comes to religion and belief, of course one has to pray that his children should be religious. One has to try to be as religious as possible so that his children, maybe, in most of the cases, they will follow. But in case they don't, then you have to try also with them and pray to God. What can we say? There is a certain verse brought in the book of Malachi, the prophet Malachi, in chapter 3. והשיב לב אבות על בנים ולב בנים על אבותם. When the time when the Messiah will come, before the Messiah will come, Eliyahu will arrive, Eliyahu the prophet, and it says he's going to bring back the heart of the fathers towards their children and the hearts of the children towards their fathers. Which means at that time fathers and children will be one for each other. They will not be different anymore. Which means those fathers who went far from our religion will come back because of the influence of their children. Those children who went far away from the way of their parents will come back, as the Rambam says that openly in Hilchot Teshuvah, in chapter 5, where he says that at the end of time, everyone will do Teshuvah, either through the efforts of the parents for their children, or maybe the efforts of the children towards their fathers. There is much more to say about this issue, but I would like just to conclude by saying, may God help us to understand, especially these days, to understand the truth. Of course, most of the things that happen in the world are a mystery for us. And we don't have to lose our faith because of that, because we don't understand. We have to leave it to God. We cannot understand everything that God is doing in His world. We don't have the mind of God. He knows the past and the present and the future. We hardly know the present, maybe not even that. So we cannot pretend to understand everything. There are many people who decide to be either religious or not religious based on what? Based on their own judgment and their own understanding. That's wrong. Of course, you have to use your understanding as much as possible for whatever is good. Otherwise, if you are choosing to go to the negative way, then you should know it is another entity that came that was involved, that's Satan. Your evil inclination was involved, not your wisdom. It says so. It says that the real wisdom is to have faith. Because people who say that they don't believe in God, they are only showing their stupidity. Noach lo la'adam shelo nivra. It says, the great commentators say, if a person doesn't have emunah, he says that he does not believe, there's no need for him to live in this world. Why? Because if at least you bring yourself into thinking what is right, the minimum that you could reach with your mind is that there is a God. Only we don't understand many things that He does. Yes, we do not understand. But who says that we have to understand everything? But when it comes to traits of character, one has to use not only his wisdom, but his efforts. Let's hope and pray that God will help us to try to use our efforts, our brains, our intentions, our heart towards trying to become better than before, so that our children will be also, if not as good as we are, but better than we are. ואלה תולדות יצחק בן אברהם, אברהם הוליד את יצחק. Everyone who saw Yitzchak coming out, he saw the face of Abraham. It means everything is fine. Now it's up to Yitzchak to go even further. That's why, as we said before, Elokei Yitzchak. The unity of God in this world was known even more by Yitzchak and even more by Yaakov. That means that the children have done even more. Yet we cannot forget what our father Abraham has done. He is the first one. He is the original father. He is the one who inculcated into our hearts the belief in God from which no one can stay away, from which one cannot say there is no such a thing. What you are doing, a person who says he does not believe, he's only lying to himself. There is no such a thing. God is God and is here and He's everywhere. But let's not forget, we cannot understand everything, but we should have faith that everything is for the best. Shabbat Shalom.